Hi, Tony from Max Home Signs. What we're going to do now, we're going to show you how simple it is to apply our single-use stencil. Now, one thing before you start, must stress making sure the surface is clean, so clean it down with panel wipe. Making sure there's no oil or residue on the paintwork is absolutely key. Also, do make sure that the undercoat's dried first, so if you've recently sprayed your vehicle, ensure that the paint has hardened off before stenciling it up. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is we've got the stencil here, so very simple one. We're going to press down on the bonnet here. So what we need to do is get it in position. As the previous video, I like to use magnets to hold it in place. So I'll hold that in place and then we'll simply measure into position where we want it, making sure that it's in the right place, which it is, making sure it's centered, which it is. And we just need to do a little tweak here. Check it again. And everything is good from there. Okay, so once we've got the stencil in position and we've measured it, I would always take a look back, making sure it visually looks right. Just because it measures right, not necessarily will look right from there, especially on some of the angles on the vehicle. So once we've got it in position, we take some straightforward masking tape. And we're going to use the hinge method here. So we're going to hinge it on. So if we take a piece of masking tape, place it along the long edge here and smooth that down. So this is where we take our squeegee and we'll just squeegee down here. Like I said, if you haven't got a squeegee, let us know, or a thick piece of cardboard will do. We can remove the magnets now and then we use the hinge technique. So we flop it over onto its back and then we simply remove the backing paper by simply pulling slowly. Make sure you do pull it slowly. Sometimes it can just snag in a couple of areas, and we just simply pull it back from there. Now we're going to use the same method here if we were doing a bonnet star, numbers or anything like that. It's the same principle. Would recommend if you've got a bonnet star maybe to have two people just to feed it back because it's a large area, but we follow exactly the same principle. So once we've hinged it back there, we bring it to a sort of 45-degree angle, take our squeegee, start from the centre and work out and just smooth it down from there, making sure there's no bubbles in it, smoothing out carefully. And once we're happy it's applied, then we can start removing the application tape. So firstly, we remove the masking tape that we put on a second ago. And then once we've done that, we need to just pick up one of the corners and just start to remove the top coat from there. Always recommend just to make sure it's stuck okay and just hold it down. And again, same principle as removing the backing paper, just slowly, one piece at a time, remove it. But as you can see, it simply comes away like from that. The application paper is a very low tack, so it should remove easily. And the stencils themselves are very, very low tack stencils and are purposely designed as a stencil material. So once we've removed that, we're ready to move on to the next stage. So now we're going to move on to the next stage, which is painting. And as we said, there's many different methods we can use for painting. We can use a spray gun, we can use an aerosol, paintbrush or a sponge. It's really down to you. I'm going to go with the sponge roller because I like this method. I find it easy. Don't have to worry about masking anything off even with such a small area from there. Now, the biggest mistake people make is applying too much paint. As we've discussed previously, it's a very dark vehicle. White is very bright. Apply little. You can always apply more later, but you can't take it away once you've applied it. So if you just charge your roller, as you would do if you were going to paint a radiator at home, making sure there's an absolute minimal amount of paint on. If you've got too much, there's no harm in just running down a piece of newspaper, testing it, making sure you've got good coverage, even coverage. Like I say, you can always apply more later. So all we're simply going to do is roll on here, and as you can see, we're working in a very small area, but we're just going to apply it as we would do if we were painting a radiator from there. Now, with the stencils, you can have a result that is really down to you. You could have it as rough as you want, you could have it as perfect as you want. Sometimes if you want to make it even rougher, you can pick up the edges of the stencils within the letters with a small craft knife, make it a bit rougher, and certainly if you aerosol that on, you'll get some of the bleeding underneath that you got on some of the older style stencils. So what we've done here is we've applied a simple paint roller, and I'm just going to give it one more go because I want a fairly faded look from there. So I'm now happy with that. Now the other thing to remember here is you can remove the stencils fairly quickly after applying. The thing is, if you apply too much paint, you'll get a film build up, and you might find it'll pull the paint off as well with the when you remove the stencil. So you can pretty much remove straight away. So I'm going to now start removing this. So pick it up. As you can see, it's not been on for a very long amount of time, and we pick it up from there, just taking care to make sure nothing bounces back. And as you can see, it's very, very straightforward to remove. So simply remove that from there. Make sure you throw that away from your vehicle, because there's obviously wet paint on there from there. Okay, so now we've removed the stencil, and as you can see, we've got a nice crisp even finish from the stencil there. As you can see, I only applied a very, very little amount of paint, but what you can see, it's very clear, very precise. So please don't go over the top on the paint. One of the biggest mistakes people make is by applying too much paint, just like I said previously, a little amount from there. So that concludes this video of how to use the stencils. Like I say, it's the same principle, whether it be large or small. Hope you found it useful. Any further information, please give us a call at Axe Home Signs.